drinking too. Pew kept all his earnings in the bank in a shoe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel, The BK Stank. It's me, Brendan Kennedy, and this is my YouTube channel where we talk about powerlifting and beer and booze and whatever the fuck I feel like talking about. So today, we're back. Obviously, I'm not at the gym doing any powerlifting. We're back, we're talking about beer. So this beer I've been wanting to try for a long time. It's from Williamsburg Alewerks. It's called Lover's Greed. I actually got this beer on my birthday back in September, but I've been so fucking busy I actually haven't had the time to devote to giving this the attention that it deserves. Which I think is a really interesting point in your life where you're so busy, you're like, I can't enjoy beer. Just end up sitting around drinking beer. Just, you know, beer that you like just enough, but not beer that you need to write an essay about, like this one. This beer, I feel like it kind of falls into that category where you have some beers where it's pretty tried and true. Like, you know, Guinness is going to be a pretty good dry Irish stout. You know that Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is going to be a great example of an American California Pale Ale. You know that there's going to be some styles that are just done. They got it right. This one is kind of one of those beers that I really enjoy where they're kind of exploring the unknown a little bit. They're kind of going off into uncharted territory.
To boldly go where no one has gone before.
This is Williamsburg Alewerks Lover's Greed, an American Wild Ale. So usually what that means is most of the time when you make a beer, you're choosing your yeast strain of choice. That's a dumb sentence, isn't it? You're choosing your thing of choice. You're choosing a yeast strain and you're adding it to your beer, and the yeast strain that you choose can have a really big impact. So if your beer is going to be an ale, you're choosing a yeast strain that ferments on top of the beer at around room temperature. And these ales will end up having usually a little bit more of like a fruity flavor, a little bit more complexity going on. And then if you choose a lager yeast strain, it's going to ferment at the bottom of the beer at around 49 degrees, and it's going to make a beer that's a lot more crisp. This beer, as a wild fermented beer, they brewed the beer and then they just let whatever they wanted to, or whatever fell into it, do the fermentation. That is really weird. That is like, that doesn't happen anywhere else. That would be like if I killed a cow, left a steak out, and then 2 months later came back and ate it. It wouldn't work. I'd die. I probably wouldn't die. I'd at least shit myself. So, on the bottle, it says, "You hold a piece of the second iteration of Lover's Greed American Wild Ale. This batch waited 36 months in French oak red wine barrels before it was deemed worthy of release. This beer has moved beyond an exercise in the forgotten virtue of patience. It is a demonstration of an inclination," I think this was written by a southern preacher, "a demonstration of an inclination for torment due to fascination with an elegant ale. Enjoy from your favorite chalice at 45 to 50 degrees. So a few things, a few kind of previews going on there. A lot of times when you have like these wild fermented ales, they're going to be a lot more funky, so you can get, obviously there's a lot of sour flavors that come through, but with yeast strains like Brettanomyces rather than your usual Saccharomyces yeast strains, there can be some flavors that have been described as barnyard. It actually makes sense. I've had hard ciders that have been made in Brittany in France that are wild fermented, and they actually do have that kind of weird barnyard flavor. And it's good. You wouldn't expect it to be good. You would expect it to, you'd think that you'd want to dump it out if it tastes like cow shit. And it doesn't taste like cow shit. But it tastes kind of like a barn, and it works for some reason. The other thing that's interesting there is they're saying that they're aging it in French red wine barrels. So already, whenever you age something in barrels, the barrels have a little bit of their own polyphenol tannin flavor, so it's going to give it a little bit more of an edge and dry it out. And then the fact that you already used it for red wine, I think is really interesting. So red wine has its own flavors that will impact the barrels. So it's time to taste it. I'm really excited about this though, because it could taste like really weird shit, and I would feel bad because then I would have to fake being happy for my wife who got it for me. Or it could just be amazing, and I'll have to be incredibly happy because my amazing wife got it for me. So let's go ahead and take off some of this fancy packaging. I always love these bottles that have the cork on them. It makes it feel so much more epic and fancy. So the cork is off, and now... Oh my god, I fucking love that smell. There's definitely already that like kind of sour smell that you get from beers like Petrus. It's almost like sourdough bread. It's almost, you get a kind of like yogurty, lactic. It's really hard to describe, but it's really good. It's almost champagne-y. The bottle recommends using a chalice to drink it. I'm using this tulip glass, which I feel like will be close enough. Let's go ahead and give it a pour and see what it looks like. So I'm already a little bit surprised by the amount of carbonation. You would think that aging it in oak barrels for 3 months would have gotten really flat, so clearly they've done some bottle conditioning or they've carbonated it after the fact. And then looking at the color here, you see some sediment, so it's definitely wild in that respect. They didn't over-process it, they kept it good and funky. The color, it's almost kind of whiskey toned. So I think just being in the oak barrels gave it a little bit more color. I was maybe expecting it to have picked up some of the red pigment from the red wine, but that didn't really come through. Now we give it a smell. We see what kind of perfume this lady is wearing. It's fucking creepy.
What the f*** is he talking about?
So it's, again, some more of that sour smell. You get a little bit more graininess. Yeah, you get like, it's like sourdough bread, grains, and a little bit more yeastiness. Something kind of champagne-y. And now for the most important part, this sip. That's really good. So the first thing that hits your palate is a bright zip of acidity. So clearly they've used some of the bugs, some of the microbes that fermented this produced a lot of lactic acid. But it's almost also maybe a little vinegary too. Like, have you ever had kombucha? So that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it all works. Now the oak flavor I thought might have been a little bit more pronounced because they did describe this beer as being in barrels for up to 36 months. And it's there, but it's not incredibly aggressive. As you can see my mouth puckering, this is really, really sour in a good way. I think it's really wonderful. I think it's really interesting what the brewers over at Williamsburg Alewerks do. They, it seems like some of their beers, their everyday beers, are, some of them border on mediocre, but the ones that they decide they're going to put that extra effort into are really good. I'm not much of a pumpkin beer person, but Williamsburg Alewerks Pumpkin Ale is probably my favorite pumpkin beer. Their coffee stout that comes out this time of year is amazing. And so it's interesting to see that the brewers there had enough foresight to let a beer do a wild fermentation, then to put it into the barrels, and that's just money that they've invested here. So think about it, like if you're a brewer, you're putting all this effort into brewing up a gigantic batch of beer, and then you're just letting it ferment in the hopes that it doesn't get all fucked up. Because you think about it, like, unless they're adding like a canned yeast strain that is labeled as wild yeast, this had the potential to just become a weird, gross vat of unfermented beer with a thick layer of mildew on top. And that wouldn't taste as good as this does.
No shit.
So they let it do its wild fermentation, they bought the barrels, and then for 3 years they had that beer just sitting there. And that's so intimidating for a business to do that. Just the idea that you're going to put that much money and effort into something and then say, okay, we'll see you later. We'll see, maybe this will be good in 3 years. So I think it definitely paid off. So as I'm tasting it, I'm getting that sourness, almost a little bit of like kombucha, like vinegar flavor. Getting a little bit of the oak, but there is also kind of a grapey complexity coming in. There is a very mild flavor from the red wine. A friend of mine actually tried it, and he just decided maybe it reminded him of Merlot a little bit. I don't know if I necessarily get that. I would have guessed maybe it had Pinot Noir in there before, but I'm definitely getting it as it's something as I continue to drink it. The level of carbonation, I think, really does play into how you experience the flavor here. It's very, very, very bubbly, and I always think that's one of the fun things about having champagne, is that it's so bubbly, it just feels fun, and this definitely feels fun. So it's, again, kind of an interesting combination of ideas here. You're getting a little bit of that grapey wine flavor. You're getting a little bit of that sourness from the microbes. You're getting that bubbliness. I really enjoy this. So this is the 2017 edition of the Lover's Greed American Wild Ale from Williamsburg Alewerks. Again, really happily surprised by how good this is. Williamsburg Alewerks, always solid. They seem to get their shit together whenever they're really putting their heart into it. And I think that's what's maybe my favorite thing about the whole craft beer movement. Just the idea that instead of necessarily thinking you're going to make a lot of money, saying, okay, let's forget about money for a little while. What is the most fun, creative thing that we can do? What is the best way that we can kind of embrace our vision? And I think that's what they did with this one. So it can, according to the bottle, it can be aged for, or it can be sat down to age for a little while. And I could see the benefits of that, but I'm really enjoying it right now. As you can see, I'm wearing my Plan B shirt. We had a show tonight, and I had a really good time. I was kind of tired. Wasn't sure if I wanted to shoot one of these beer review videos, but I'm really happy that I did. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. My name is Brendan Kennedy. This is the BK Stank. If you guys like these videos, go ahead and like it down there. If you really, really like these videos, go ahead and subscribe. I try to upload a couple of videos every week, so there's always something new happening. If there's something you want to see, something you kind of want to see a little bit different, go ahead and comment in the area below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. So, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you later.